access on your camera, and then typically this bounces on the white ceilings, right? So that's where all the light just flows out, and then everything becomes in, because you're bouncing this light on the ceiling. I mean, I've had places where the ceiling is fully black, right. And then you're like, oh my god, where do I bounce it to, right?
Or you've got something like this.
Something like this,
right? With
right.
beams, which really
right. doesn't make it, you know. So I mean, I've done some interior work as well. Here's some of my cards. I've also had, you know, some shoots, like I've photographed some interiors as well, where you could use a flash unit like this, and you bounce it to the ceiling, and you just keep it like, you know, bare this way, bare, bounce it to the ceiling, and then maybe I'll have another light, you know, a couple of different lights, everything is kind of bouncing to the ceiling, coming back, making the whole space sort of evenly lit, if that makes sense. Yeah.
We want to see your pictures.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to come back down. They've got
Sure,
my
yeah.
camera ready upstairs.
Yeah, of course.
Would
Yeah,
that flash have enough power for this modifier?
what's that?
Would that flash have enough power for this modifier like the other folders?
This one?
Yes.
You can. I've used this one on a softbox.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's enough power.
I've used, yeah. I mean, I've created some, you know, like some photos of me and my kids as well together with this. And for me, like, I don't really, you know, if it's like personal work, I don't really care too much about like, oh, there's too much shadows on the side. Like, you know, as long as like I'm happy, my kids are happy, and the photo looks good, like I'm like, you know, it's all good. But there's a specific need and purpose when you're trying to do something like that, right? Like if it's for something, you know, typically if you want, yeah, thank you. Yeah, typically if you want a little bit more even lighting, you want to just use a nice ray. This is an umbrella. There we go. All right, okay, so let's come on this side. Sorry, what's that? Ready? This side. I know, exactly. There's another setup actually, maybe you'll try to do that once this is done. Keeping the light behind her. Does anyone know what happens if you keep the light behind her?
Silhouettes.
Silhouette, exactly, yeah. You get some real, it's like if you photograph something around sunset, so imagine something like that, right? You're gonna get a nice silhouette or some nice rim light on her hair.
Do you ever mess around with gels?
I do, yeah. I do have some gels too, but this is... There we go. I know it's a bit... All right, perfect. Everything is nice and tight. All right, so what I'm going to do is change it around this way. Can you guys still see the TV a little bit?
Yes.
Okay. Turn this on. So this one is called the B10 in Pro Photo, B10X, and it's a much more powerful light unit. Like I said, I don't remember the wattage and everything, but it's much more powerful than the smaller light. And I mean, this is when you want like more light for whatever reason, right? More people, larger space, like whatever that is, and you need more light, you know, in that space. And there's like different kinds of modifiers that you can use with this. It doesn't have to be an umbrella, you can use soft boxes, there's like all sorts of different things. There's rectangular strips, so all of this modifiers is like a whole like, you know, just entering a room like, oh my gosh, why are there so many? Because modifiers is like a whole another topic. But, you know, just in brief, like different modifiers to different things. An umbrella, you know, an umbrella is one of the most commonly used, most versatile one, and it's like just keeping it open this way, the light just bounces back and then comes back on her, right? That's the basic principle. All right, okay. So we'll start with the 45 degree over here for this thing. Disconnect this. So let's just sit, let's see. I have this set at 4.0 right now. And then my shutter speed is also, sorry, not my shutter speed, my f-stop is also 4. To increase this just a little bit, I will actually show this image that you guys can see by perhaps maybe half a stop. Right?
Probably one stop.
Right, or possibly, yeah. We'll see. We'll go slowly and see. I think I'm going to increase the flash power actually. Let's see. Sort of at like 3/4 there. Okay. Much better. You could go a little higher. Let's see how this looks.
Right, still need it.
Much better. Yeah, we'll go higher. But you can see a little bit of the background too, right? Because this is a larger softbox, much more powerful, light unit as well. All right, so let's increase this a bit more. Let's go. Just increase. I know, right? Getting my steps in today. All right, so this is with her just looking directly at me, right? And let's see how it looks. I mean, it's good, it's decent, but it'll be nice to get a little bit more even lighting on her face, a little bit more, just a little bit more nicer spread, right? So let's try and see if we can have her. Let's have you actually stand.
Be
And
closer to the light, right?
what's that?
She needs to be closer to the light.
Closer to the light a little bit. Yeah. All right. So let's have you look towards the light at this point. Okay. This is good. That.
That's too bright.
I like it.
A third of the stop.
I personally will go down just a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a little too bright, but you can and then so let's have her do the same thing, but let's have her look at me. I'm not changing any flash power right now. We'll just still keep it too bright, but just look at me. So you can see the difference. There's going to be a little bit of contrast in this one. It's essentially the same principle that we looked at before.
Could you take the first one and just modify in Lightroom, reduce the
You
exposure?
could. You could.
You know
You
what?
could. You would. It's nice to get them as perfect as you can in camera.
Okay.
I mean, you can tell, right? There's a little bit of like a shadow on this side, right? Like a little
Yeah.
bit of contrast. Yeah.
When she was talking about getting her closer, further away from the light,
Yeah.
the formula that governs that is the inverse square law. correct?
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I know. We.
I
It's-
knew about the class here.
Right. So it's you could go a little bit further away as well if you want, but there'll be like you'll have more of the light drop, right? Let's do one thing. I'm going to reduce this. So my flash power right now is set at 5 over here. So let's have you look. Actually, look at the let's give a side a little bit. So maybe just put your hand up a little. Yeah. Let's what you had. You had the one where you kind of just were doing it this way. That was really pretty. And just move it around. Keep moving it around. It's okay. Okay, let's do this.
Oh, yeah.
Much more, a little bit more softer, right? We got our photo the wrong time, though, with your eyes, but
It's
still.
like I've been drinking.
right? You can tell like the softness. You could still see the background as well. Can you also like see the background as well a little bit? You can tell that too, right? All right, so let's see. So now this was any questions on this setup? With the umbrella and with the slide, etc., etc. Now, say we do this this is going to be a bit maybe in my way. I don't usually like to, actually let's do this for the kicks of it. Why don't you move a little bit that's to my right? And I'm going to keep this, just for the sake of being extreme, I'm going to keep it completely to her side, right? So we're going to try to see as side, towards her, and then see on how the other side looks like. So come here, and then what I'll have you do is still stand, face me this way. So it's like really like to her side, right? Not at an angle. Okay. Didn't change any flash settings. Have a little one step forward. Okay, that's it. Okay, so let's look at this. And then but you can see, I mean, I would increase the flash power a little bit, but you see a little bit of the contrast, right? On the other side. So because this is a larger softbox, like a larger umbrella, the spread is much more bigger or wider rather as compared to having a shorter. If I used that one, you would see the extremity. You know what I'm trying to show is where the side of the face is like really in the dark much more, and the other side is like much more on the light. With a smaller softbox, you'll see that a bit more extreme. But with an umbrella, because the purpose of this big, wide, huge umbrella is to push the light out more, you're seeing a little bit more of light on the other side, right? But let's say if I have you, so come a little bit this way, this, okay? I'm gonna do one more of this. Okay, so let's do that. So yeah, just look at me directly straight. Okay, and then the other side should still be darker, just a tad at least. Right, so you could see this side is a bit more light, the other side is a bit more dark, right? Now what if, say, she moves, so come this way, and then kind of just like, a little bit of a side where you're looking at the light. Come closer, a little bit closer, and then, yes, that's perfect, that's perfect, that folds. You can lift your head a little bit, and then look at the light. Like don't lift, yeah, just lift your face. Yeah, there you go. Perfect, beautiful. There you go, I love that. Perfect. So let's look at this one. Like much more even, right? Because she's facing the light, and it's much more even though it's on the side, right? So whenever you're like playing with light, light, and you're thinking about how all of that functions, think about where the model, whomever you're photographing, where should they look? Are they looking straight at the camera? If you want eye contact, where can you place the softbox and your light? Do you want to use, do you want more even? Do you want more side? Do you want more, dramatic light? Do you want to add more contrast? Like, what is it? What's the purpose of what you're trying to do, right? We'll try a top down for this one too. So, in this case, I'm kind of pretending that this umbrella is my ceiling. Right, so please sit under the umbrella. Let's go. Okay, yeah, let's just stand. That's okay. I mean, if it comes in my shows up in your camera, yes. Okay. I mean, space constraints, but I would take this a little bit more higher, but you could see a little bit more of the softer light, right? The other thing what I would do for something like this is try to get something from the bottom to kind of just lift, you know, like you see a little bit of shadow under her chin, etc., etc. So I would get, you know, one of the reflectors over here to bounce a little bit of light back on her face from under her chin. Perhaps you can see a little bit of shadow under the nose, etc. Any questions so far about any of these setups?
Did you try with the reflector? Does it make such a difference?
It'll make a little bit of a difference, yeah. If one of you want to come and try to hold this. So let's, can you actually bring it a little bit closer? So let's do it like this. Perfect, let's do that. So I didn't change any of my light settings.
Oh, yeah, huge difference, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's bright, but you know, it is what it is. But you could say that it makes a difference, right?
If you used white rather than silver,
Right.
it'd probably be a little more
Yeah,
muted.
more, right.
That makes a
Yeah.
huge difference.
All right, so the other thing I wanted to show is, I don't know how you're doing on time. The other thing I wanted to show is just for fun. So we're going to try putting a light behind her, right? So let's see how that looks. Let's do this. I'm going to take this umbrella out. I'm just going to use this side.
They look pretty sturdy, not flimsy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have this flimsy ones too. You know, you get umbrellas on Amazon for like $20, $30
Right,
too,
right.
you know. If you just wanted to play around with like, let me put my soft toy over here and do something. That's sometimes, like I always say, that's like, you know, that's the best thing to practice.
Yeah.
Your dolls or toys or whatever, Legos or whatever. Okay, let's try something. Okay. So we're going to try and this light behind you. So I'll have you kind of stand like in front of the light stand. Yeah, there we go. And then we'll see if we can get a little bit of the ring light in here. Alright, so let's see this. I'm not touching anything with my flash power. I'm just going to keep it at that. My f-stop is at 4.0. Let's see what we get. Typically, I like silhouettes when it's like a nice side. You know, a side is always like it just, you see the profile much better, right? If you're trying to do a silhouette, like, you know, you could go try this outside during sunset too, right? If you're facing this way, it's not as glamorous or pleasing. But when you have an angle, and that's a whole posing thing. But when you're, you know, giving it an angle, you see the definition a bit more nicer. And you know, if your hands are all here, it doesn't feel like a blob when you go back and see. So that's why it's like if you're trying to do silhouettes, you would be like, you know, try to have on the side, lift up your hands or do whatever, hold a balloon or whatever, right? Lift up your hands this way so you see like the nice definition with the silhouette. But anyway, we did this with just straight on. You're gonna see how this looks. So you see a little bit, I mean, you see light on her face because it's not dark enough. But you see a little bit of the rim light there, right? Okay, so let's make it a little bit more darker through my camera. So I'm going to increase my f-stop so that she is darker, but I'm going to increase my flash power so the light coming from the back is more brighter. Does that make sense? Okay. So I'm going to actually just increase it by a whole stop. So it's at 6 right now, and then I'm going to increase my f-stop to at 5.6. Let's see what we get. And then I'm going to still go front. Let's just do front and see how it feels. What's that? We can make it a little bit more darker. And I think I'm going to increase this light a bit more. I'm going to make it the flash power is set at 7 over there. And then I will, and then actually, you know what, let's just do a side here. So turn this way, and then let your hair flow a little bit. Okay, let's try that. Okay, let's see this. So the stronger the light is in the background, obviously the stronger your rim light will be.
Nice.
You see a little bit of a rim in there, right? Typically, you know, if I like to do something like this, I like to use like gels on that too. Like I'll get like a nice warm orange gel to go on that light fixture, and then it just gives you like a nice orange glow, like a golden light glow to that too. And then if you want something like this, but you also want more light on her face, that's when you start adding extra lights. Like, you know, I can bring an additional light over here, light her from the front here as well, but then also from the back to get a little bit more of the rim light. Any questions about this? So let's have you face that side. Sure. So I'll have you face this way. Right? Yes, okay, now we put on the side. Got the light tubes up on the ceiling too, but okay. Right? You see, it's just playing around with different setups, etc. And you see this really nice rim light. If there's like a fan in there, you know, just play with her hair. So you see, like if the hair is flowing, you get a little bit more of the nicer rim light going in there too. Catching all of this, the dust particles have the whole magical feel to it too, right? Any questions on any of this so far? Any questions about Flash so far? Yeah. Yes.
Would you ever use a histograph when you're doing flash photography, or?
You could, yeah. I mean, like I said, there's just so many different ways to do things, and you know, if the histogram really helps you to see, oh, okay, you know, my highlights are blown in here, let me just go fix that. If that helps you, please, by all means, you know, you could go ahead and do that. For me, it's just always being like just playing with trial and error, because I just like being on my feet and kind of just saying, no, this didn't work. Okay, this works better. If you want to, you know, save time for yourself and do things, okay, I want to take 2 shots, get it right, move on. There's always a light meter, and you can talk to one of the guys over here. I think they might have a light meter. So if you use a light meter, you can essentially just check, okay, what light do we have in here? How much am I, basically to tell you what flash power should I set over here so that my camera and this speak together, right? Rather than me going, you know, oh, let me say, put this to, like, I'm just pulling up a number and saying, oh, yeah, let me just put this to 7 and then just see what happens. Then go up and, you know, for me, the magical number here, it typically goes, the flash power here goes up to 10, for example. I would set it at 5 and then go up or down from there, right? So, but having a light meter will really just tell you, okay, what should your exposure be? So you're not really like just wasting time or going back and forth. And then it tells you like what this has to be when your camera is set. Does that make sense? Yeah. So use the histogram by all means if that helps you. Yeah.
Do you ever use the light meter on your camera?
I don't. Yeah. Yeah, I don't. I've just been used to, like I said, you know, I have a number that I go with, and then I kind of just go up and down based on that. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Also, do you ever use TTL? What's the pros and cons?
Yeah.
Like, why would you use it?
Yeah, so that was the other second part where, so when we get started with, so the flash is set to manual, so basically I can adjust the flash power here however I want it, right? Now, there's something else called high-speed sync, and if you wanted to, and what that does basically is, my shutter speed when I'm photographing here is set. I can't really mess with my shutter speed. If I use TTL, I can play with my shutter speed and get it higher, while I can change my f-stop. Like if I say, because my shutter speed is at 1/200, but if I want to photograph her at say f1.4, because this is at 35 f1.4, it'll be way too bright. It'll be very, very bright, right? And f1.4 really has that soft feel to it, but it'll be way too bright. And then I'll be like, even if this flash power, and we can try that, even if this flash power is set to the very minimum, it'll still be too bright. So that's where the high-speed sync comes in. So you set your trigger to the TTL, and then you can update your shutter speed to go higher. So you can go to 1/800 and whatnot, and then you adjust your shutter speed to be high. And then you guys all know, familiar with the exposure triangle to some extent, right? So which ones would you adjust, etc., etc. Assuming that you guys all know, that's why I'm like, I'm just throwing these words. But if you don't, feel free to stop me and ask. And then for the f-stop, if I set it at say 1.4 or 2.0, typically I like to shoot at 2.0 because 1.4, it can be blurry, etc. I like 2.0 is like my nice spot. So then if I have 2.0 and then my shutter speed is like 1/800 or higher or whatever, and then I can use my flash power to bring in that extra light if I needed to at all, right? So if it's a dark space, and we can try that right now. If it's like, I don't mind like turning this light off. I don't know if it's like we can turn selective lights off, but it'll really give that crease. Still, it'll be similar to what we saw, but it'll give a much more like a nice, shallow, like the difference between shooting at 1.4 versus a 5.6, right? You know how a portrait can feel different, like the softer feel to it, a shallow depth of field. If you have a background over here, you'll see the background going blurry, right? Because that's what happens when you shoot at 1.4. So that's what you will actually see when you shoot at 1.4 with a high-speed sync, where you're able to adjust your f-stop as well as your shutter speed. Just a quick thing. So typically for me, whenever I get started with flash, like I said, I change my flash power. I started at half power, like it's at 5, and then I start with 4.5 for my f-stop, and that's usually my baseline. I haven't touched my ISO at all for any of this, because ISO it adjusts my camera settings, right? So I try to work just with my flash to bring in more light. So you could do this, like even if it's like, say, a completely dark room, right? Actually, this is, I talked about this being a continuous light here, right? So this is what a continuous light. So this, I know it's too bright. Sorry guys, I'm gonna turn it off. Like, I didn't give a warning, but this is.
So if you had continuous light, I'm sorry, what would you do with your settings?
So it's essentially the same.
Okay.
It just helps you see how the light is actually shaping, right? So I took the umbrella off and it's being pushed it back on, but it's going to be harsh on her. Like if I say I put this light on, like we've looked at. Sorry, just close your eyes. It's going to be too bright. Just close your eyes. Let's say like I'm doing it. Done.
Is that the only reason why photographers use continuous light, so they see what they're doing?
It's a preference thing. Plus also, you can see how the light is shaping, where things are going, etc., etc. I like using continuous light as well. Although, like I said, that flash unit was a strobe. Typically, that does everything that it needed it to do for, if you have a larger set or you're photographing a large number of, large, maybe 5+, whatever, and it makes sense to see all the detail, then I guess it makes sense to have more of the continuous light, and you can get an idea of where things are going to be. So say, just close your eyes. This is going to be harsh, so let's increase my stop here. But let me actually turn on the continuous, close your eyes. So you can see that when I take a photo, this side of her will be all bright, right? And now if I take a photo, for example, my f-stop is at f8, shutter speed is 1 at 200, and ISO is 100, and that's set at 5. Right? So there you go. I'm going to turn this off. You can open your eyes. There you go. So you could tell, basically it tells you, right? This is not a flattering portrait because it's direct light on her. There's no modifiers. We're not really, shaping the light in any way. It's like having a torchlight in someone's face, right? So it has that feel. It's not really flattering, but you could tell where the light was going to fall when you looked at it in that right? It was a continuous light. So, yeah.
When I'm shooting flash, as the power of the battery starts to drop,
Yeah.
does that make the recycle time between shots longer?
Like cycling between the
Yeah.
shots, you mean?
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, the battery of the flash drops.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's consuming more power.
Okay.
As such. I mean, this unit that I use, I've gone on shoots for like a couple of hours, and this is just fine.
Okay.
I typically charge this one, the B10. I don't know, like.
Because I was using on-camera flash, and after about
That dies really fast.
yeah, because it was
Yes.
like 1 second, 1 second, 1 second, 2
Yes.
seconds, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds.
Yeah, yeah. Because the on-camera flash, it just eats up battery really, really fast. I mean, because you're making it work as hard as well, right?
Yeah.
Because you're using your camera as well as your flash the entire time. So it's like, it's at full power always, right? So it's like, it's working all the time, so it just eats up the battery. Whenever I use the on-camera flash in events, etc., I always carry an extra battery with me because
It goes fast.
yeah, it goes fast. Like 2 hours, if it's a.
Well, no, this was like 20 minutes, and I noticed
20 minutes?
as I was shooting, the recycle
Oh, wow.
time kept getting, and I didn't know if I had a defective battery or what.
Yeah, I mean, it was never 20 minutes for me. It always lasted a couple of hours. Okay. Yeah, what brand was that?
It was a Godox, the V1,
Okay.
but I was shooting like click,
Oh, okay, okay.
like continuously.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, continue. Yeah, maybe like you have the continuous continuous mode on, right? Where it was like
Well, it was single shot, but I was
single shot.
I was
Okay.
shooting every 2 to 3 seconds.
Yeah. I guess just having of course, just having an extra battery. I mean, on-camera flash has, this, it just eats up the battery really fast. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, you go ahead.
No,
No, go ahead.
Are you going to show us how you use TTL also?
Oh, yeah, we could do that. Yeah. So for the sorry, let's go with your question.
Do you prefer multiple shots or what's
I mean, it all depends, right? So if I'm photographing people, and then if it's, I typically like movement. Like if you go to my website, portfolio, whatever, I'm like always like, I mean, for the demonstration purposes, we're like, just do this, hold this. But typically, if I'm like photographing someone, I'll be like, hey, Jorika, just keep moving, and that's what you'll typically see a lot of models where they're like just constantly moving because. You wouldn't really want someone to like, okay, do this, just stand here for like 2 seconds and fidgeting. Like, you want to like, the more movement you have in anything that you photograph, the more you will make your subject look alive. And that's the whole, like you want it to feel like, okay, this is a person rather than I'm just looking at a 2D thing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I forgot your question even.
Multiple shots.
Multiple shots, yeah. So I do multiple shots for people, but I do single shots usually if I'm photographing food or other still life. Actually, I have flowers there, but still life. I was going to do still life too. But let's do a quick high-speed sync over here.
So even in a portrait, you make the people move or no?
You can.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like, you know, like for example, if she's there and I'm like taking, you know, say for example, this is, let's see, I took my umbrella out, but it's fine. It's not going to be the best quality of light, but say if I want to, I'm going to set my, okay, I do have continuous high speed shots here. Okay, so say Jerita, like just do something just to keep moving, like don't stop. It's going to be harsh light here, but I'm not shooting TTL here, but okay. So let's look at this last. So I was shooting continuously, right? So I have these multiple shots, and I don't know if I can show. You have to come to look at the shots at the back of my camera. I don't know if I can show. I think I'm able to show only the last shot, not like the other ones, but regardless. So like she's continuously moving, right? So this freezes, right? It's like freezing. Now when you use high-speed sync, you're able to reduce your f-stop and get like a really nice shallow depth of field, right? So we can try something like that because we talked about that. So let's do that. I mean, the light quality is not that great. I mean, we can change it to that light and actually, you know, do that. Let's do that because I don't want this to flash on you. And that's really, yeah. Let's do the high-speed sync. It's still light really quick too. So let's do that. Go with the 45. Typically, my favorite way to light a portrait is a 45 degree because it just has that really nice contrast, you know, on the other side as well.
At the eye level or higher usually?
A little, slightly higher, slightly higher. All right, okay, so let's go with something like this. I'm going to disconnect this. Okay, so let's do, oh, all right. So for high-speed sync, let me change, it's basically a change of a mode on your trigger. Yeah, so typically it says that, or sometimes your triggers will have a high-speed sync option that you just select that. So that's what I just did. And I'm going to go and increase my shutter speed. Reduce my, so this goes to full power.
Sure.
My shutter speed is at 1/800. F-stop is f1.4. This is way too bright still. I'm just going to show this.
Oh.
It's showing the blinkers,
Yes.
right? It's really bright. So let me increase my shutter speed. I don't know, 1/2000. Right? Let's try that. It's still bright, but it's better. Like that. Still bright, better, right? Okay, so I'm going to increase my shutter speed to 3200. I'm getting really high because my f-stop is f1.4. So that, and I'm going to come closer. Just lift your head a little bit and look towards the light. Much better. Much better. But I don't mind going slightly higher on my shutter speed if I have to. Hold on. Much better, right? But like it's f1.4, a portrait with f1.4. Or obviously this is a 35 lens. If I use say an 85, we'll get some nice compression as well for the portrait. I might go on the shutter speed a little bit more higher. So I'm at 3200, I'm stretching it now. I'm at 4000. All right, let's see what this does. Okay, see there? This is nice, actually. I like this one. I'm still at f1.4. Much more nicer, right? Much more nicer, softer. And if we had some texture in the background, whatever texture you have, I don't even know how easy that is to demonstrate because it's all black. But if you have some texture, all of that will be blurred out, right? Because we're shooting it at 1.4. Did that make sense a little bit with the TTL option? I think somebody else had that question, right? I forget what they said. Somebody else have a question? TTL and then,
Yes,
oh yeah, let's look at the multiple shots. Yes, I was going to do something else, and I was like, okay, I thought somebody else had a question. All right. Okay. So this was the one. You know, and actually, let me do the same thing. Let me do the same thing with f2.0. This is going to be a slightly softer.
Thank you, Chair.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. So let's have your hands. Yeah, let's do that. So we get a little bit of that. There we go. It's nice and soft. Lift your head a little bit towards that side. So I'm going to move it a little bit this way. That's much better. Look at that. It's like really nice, creamy texture, and it's I mean it's you know, we have a little bit of like, you know, hot spot over there, maybe just to reduce. I don't know, I might shoot it at 2.2 then, but it's still really like a nice softer light, right? Any other questions about anything? Yeah.
Do you ever use or what is like rear flash or like rear the curtain flash? You ever use that setting?
I have not, no. Are you talking about when you get like more like streaks? I have
well,
not
on my
used it.
camera, there's like for like the settings for flash. There's like bill flash. There's like front flash.
Yeah, I mean, I
like
didn't
rear.
really talk. So with just one light, this is my key light. Like I didn't really talk about the different ones because we're like just kind of talking about one light setup. But you know, when you're so a key light essentially is just your main light. It's like your main light of what you're lighting the subject. So this when all the lights are turned off, and this is your key light. You'll see some. You know, you'll see. Right now we get a little bit of light from here too, which is fine. But when you have fill light, so you're basically adding an extra light, so as the word says, to fill in and lift the shadows, right? So this is your key light. We have some ambient light. So this is our ambient light. And then if you have a fill light, typically that goes on the opposite side to lift the shadows up a little bit. And yeah, so key, fill, ambient. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Fill light can be the same setup, or it's much.
So the fill light can be the same setup, but you have to play with the settings because if your main light is say at full power, you want your fill light just to be enough, and that's where the light meter can come really handy because you're dealing with multiple light setups at that point to really get that how to lift the shadows. Like, I mean, this itself is technically like a fill light, right? Because we were using this to lift the shadows. When we were here, we were like, oh, let's just do it this way to lift the shadows, right? But if you have an additional light, like say if I have one of the other same light, or this one for example, the other light unit, and it comes in from the other side, that's my fill light, and I can adjust the settings of both of them. The trigger will speak to all of them, and I assign channels, like this is the first one, that's the second one, and all of that, it gets to the whole studio lighting complexity of things. But the whole point being, with like one light itself, you can do like so much, right? Let's actually just do one list thing quickly. I mean, we have, I don't know how easy it is to move the table over here. Can I have two people to like help? Just move the table here and we can just see how still life looks as well. Just bring the table in the front. And you can sit down, Jericho.
Oh, thank you.
You must be cold. Oh my God.
Yeah, just right there.